Would you take an herb that had the side effect of death if you took too much, or would that be totally scary out of your comfort zone? Today, we're going to talk about how we don't scrutinize herbs and medications the same, and there's been a lot of fear and misunderstanding around herbs and how it kind of just shifts our perspective on taking medicine. It's really important to note that no medicine is without risk or side effects, and it's all a matter of context and weighing the pros and cons of what's going to help you get to your destination of where you want to go, and is it worth it? So one of the herbs I took today does have that side effect of death, and we're going to get into it. My name is Lila. This is the Virtual Natural Healing Clinic. I'm on a mission to help people claim their birthright to health and happiness. So if you're dealing with anything complex or chronic or haven't been able to find help elsewhere, I highly recommend that you check the description below and reach out to the clinic. We are here to support a very important mission. I think that the modern medical system is failing people. I think the alternative health and wellness space has become a chaotic little mess. And so we're here to offer some new perspectives and some reliable information. Okay, moving on. The reason I thought about talking on this subject today was I'm taking an herb, and I'm specifically not going to share what herb it is because this herb does need to be taken under the guise of a practitioner and really just educated and monitored when using, because the side effect is death. If you take too much, you will die. That sounds really scary, and I understand that, but when we start actually understanding what's going on, it doesn't seem so bad. So the herb I'm taking, the dose I'm taking is about, it'll end up being somewhere between 1 and 100 drops. The lethal dose is probably 1 to 2 ounces, probably closer to the 2 ounces range. So the dose that I'm taking and the dose that's going to cause me problems, they're very far apart. But when people talk about this herb being used internally, we call it poison. And there's a lot of fear. And there will be 100 blogs on the internet telling you that this herb shouldn't be taken internally, even though we have lots of historic use and people using this herb internally. We have more studies and actual herbal use in European countries of this herb internally. But the internet is a very loud, very scary thing. So we scrutinize this stuff pretty freaking hard. And we call a lot of plants poisonous when it's one of those things where it's going to sound cliche, but the dose makes the poison. There are plenty of herbs in the repertoire that are very safe, very effective at the right doses, but if you down a whole bottle, you're gonna have issues. There's other herbs where the dose is 5 bottles, and it's all just kind of this fluid thing that we have to understand when taking herbs. Now, what really kind of gets me is we have a lot of fear around herbal use, but we don't carry the same scrutiny or discernment around medication and pharmaceutical use and over-the-counter medication use. I did a quick search before this video to see how many pharmaceutical drugs on the market carry a black label warning. A black label warning is the highest FDA warning that can be put on a medication, and that means that the side effects are potentially death or an irreversible injury or disability. So a black label warning on a medication is serious, but there are so many medications, over 400 circulating and being prescribed today that carry that label warning. Now, on top of that, there's so many things that you can go buy over the counter, and if you took too much of, you're going to have serious issues that could result in something like death or a permanent disability. But I don't think people are quite as afraid of those things because they are so normalized. Because you can walk in to any Walmart or any Target and buy Tylenol and an ibuprofen, and so we think it's normal and we think it's safe, and we don't realize that these things actually come with some pretty hefty side effects. And if you were to take too many, you can have some serious organ failure, some liver failure, some kidney failure. And it's just something that I think we don't really think about just because it's so normal and everybody does it and it's so widely available. But with herbs, they are less widely available. They're less in the public's face. Less people take them. And so we don't have the same trust or confidence because it's not what everyone's doing. It feels fringe. It feels against the grain. So we automatically scrutinize these things heavier. I have and always will most likely put my faith in the plants over the medications. I think medications serve a purpose. They're not all bad. They're good nudgers. They can help in certain situations. But at the end of the day, I will say scared and quite frankly shocked at what is going on with the pharmaceutical industry, the medical complex in this country, and how everything is coming to fruition. I don't know that it's widely talked about or known, but one of the leading causes of death in America, this first world country with some of the most advanced medicine in the world, is pharmaceutical drug interactions. People get prescribed multiple drugs. We don't fully understand how they're going to interact, or nobody's paying attention to potential interactions, and people die. People die because of pharmaceutical interactions. And what's even more ironic about the situation is when you prescribe a medication, the compliance rate is something like 70%. If one person is said to take one medication every day, they're about 70% compliant. But the compliance drastically drops the more medications somebody is prescribed. So if they're prescribed 2 medications, it drops. If they're prescribed 3 medications, it goes even lower. And 4 medications, you get the point. And so we're seeing a rise and continual rise in these drug interaction complications and even resulting in death. But the amount of prescription medications that are being prescribed aren't being taken because the compliance gets low as people get more prescriptions. So we would see this as even more of a problem if people were actually taking everything that they were prescribed. That was, a very long-winded way to get that point across. But what I'm trying to say is pharmaceutical medications are not without risk, and they're not without serious risks and side effects. Herbs, on the whole, are very, very safe, especially if you're using them intelligently and you're using them with somebody who knows how to mitigate risk and side effects and how to start you out slowly and work your way up into proper dosing with monitoring and all those things. But at the end of the day, the amount of herb-related deaths is nothing. It's absolutely nothing compared to the amount of deaths and complications from pharmaceutical medications. So no drug or medicine or herb or plant is without risk. That doesn't exist. So there's nothing out there that's 100% safety guaranteed. But the amount of risk you are going to get from the plants is way, way lower than what it is in the medical system. So it's just really interesting. And this is just some fruit for thought on how we unfairly discriminate against these things that are less known and more foreign to us. That's all I want to say. I'm going to keep taking my low dose toxic herb. That's a specific class of herbs we have in our Materia Medica. If you have an advanced trained herbalist, they're most likely trained to use some, we call them low dose or toxic herbs. And that means that the dose is really low. And if you get into higher doses, then there are serious side effects that can be ranging in all kinds of things, including death. But it's really easy not to get into those side effects. And you don't even have to use those herbs if you're an herbalist or your clients aren't comfortable, because they do carry more risk. But the risk is still so much lower than that of many, many drugs and medications. And the worst part about the high risk that comes with drugs and medications is a lot of times, I'm not going to say a lot of times, most of the time, they're not fixing the issue. So you're getting side effects, you're taking on risk, but you're still feeling bad, And to me, it's just such a warped and twisted way of doing health and helping people. That's all I have to say on that topic. If you have any questions, let me know. Drop a comment. If you're interested in hearing more on this subject, let me know. Drop a comment. Also, I would love to invite you to subscribe and come along with me on this journey to help you find your health and happiness. I'm Lila. This is the Virtual Natural Healing Clinic, and we'll see you next time.